Hello guys and welcome to the Japanese tree review. It's the last one we have left, so well, let's get started and let's go for that. First of all, I'm going to summarize the Japanese tree by saying that it's unfinished. And it's unfinished not just in the number of planes which are in the game, which are not a lot. As you can see, the tree is not really well fleshed out, and it has a hard cap in fighters at level 17 and a hard cap up bombers at level 15, which is really bad. The problem is that it not only lacks planes, it not only lacks high tier planes, is that the planes that are in the game are actually overperforming in one way or another. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack because of this. I know a lot of people are going to criticize me for saying what I'm going to say, but it's the way it is. The Japanese tree is probably the most fun one to play in historical battles, but that's mostly because the planes are overperforming without an exception. All of them do overperform. Of course, that's a thing that can be argued that, well, the Japanese tree, as it doesn't have a lot of high tier planes, should have overperforming planes to compensate. I don't think that's the proper way to flesh out an ICO, but whatever. The thing is that it has not enough models of planes, but those that are in there, they are mostly overperforming. So well, let's start doing the analysis and review. Let's start with the zero line, which starts with the A5M4, the Cloud. This is a carrier-borne light fighter, which this is going to be a theme. All Japanese planes climb much better than what they should. All of them. So I'm going to mention it a lot. So don't take that in account. The problem is that it's all over the place in Japanese planes. It's a very nimble fighter, turns in a dime, really maneuverable, really fun to fly. It's very slow, really slow, but it really outclimbs a lot. It shouldn't climb the way it does. A6M2N. This is a zero. This is your first zero, and it's a float plane. Of course, those huge things under the fuselage and wing slow the plane a lot. The plane is very slow, but it has zero maneuverability, which is excellent maneuverability. But it also climbs way better than what it should. A6M2, well, turns in a dime, very maneuverable. Problems with dives and zooms. It's very light, very light. This thing is not a boom and zoomer. It can't boom and zoom. But again, it climbs maybe. I mean, when I say these things climb too good, I'm talking of 50% discrepancies. So huge discrepancies. This thing climbs really good. A6M3, same as the A6M4 and 2, but with some differences. First of all, and I'm going to show that. Sorry, not here. I'm going to show it. If there's something that the zeros have, is that they don't roll very well, but this is one exception. You can see the wingtips are clipped, and that helped a lot in high speed maneuverability and roll rate. So the plane rolls very well, very good for a zero. It's a very good roller. Has different cannons. The A6M2 MC2N have Type 99 Mark 1. From the A6M3 onwards is Type 99 Mark 2, which are much better cannons. The plane is excellent. It's faster than the standard zero. Maneuvers much better because of the roll rate. It turns a little bit worse, but who cares, because it's going to outturn anything and everything anyway. And again, it simply is broken in climbing. Really good fighter. A6M3 Mod 22 is basically the same as the A6M3, but with the standard round tips. You're going to see that. Yep, no clipped wingtips anymore. So again, this rolls worse than the A6M3, but turns a little bit better. Other than that, they are very similar, really similar to each other. Again, outclimbs like a mad. A6M5, this is an evolution of the previous models. It's actually a little bit heavier than the A6M3, and it's also better protected. About protection, the Zero was renowned in real life by going down with very light hits. It was a very feeble plane. It was made of paper, really. It had unprotected fuel cells, didn't have self-selling fuel tanks, and was really easy to set on fire. And once on fire, the plane usually burned to death. In War Thunder is not that way. The Zeros actually take a surprisingly high amount of hits for what you would expect from a Zero, and it's very rare to see a Zero burning to death. Very rare. Usually you set them on fire and the fire goes out in mere seconds. So yeah, damage wise, they are also, let's say, suspect. The A6M5, however, was the first Zero which incorporated, more or less in a serial way, some degree of self-selling fuel tanks, so it was less prone to fuel. It also had better armor than the previous versions and was better protected, so it was tougher as a result. The structure was also tougher and was able to dive at higher speeds and maneuver better at higher speeds than the previous ones. Um, well, of course, that came at a penalty. This plane was much heavier than the previous ones, and as such, it didn't turn as well as the previous ones. Again, not a big problem because even then it outturned everything, and it also weighed more with more or less the same engine power, so climb rate suffered. In the game, it's not that way. Again, the plane climbs much better than what it should, much better than what it should, and well, yeah, it doesn't turn as good as the previous Zeros, but still, it's a Zero and turns in a dime. Again, very good fighter for turn and burn. The problem with the Zero lines is that they don't boom and zoom at all. They can't boom and zoom. They are too light for that. They don't dive well. They have a very low dive speed limit, and they don't zoom very well because they are very light. So they are very good for turn fighting, and given the insane acceleration and climb rate, which shouldn't be the way it is, they are very good energy fighters. But they are broken. So yeah, that's it. N1K, N1K, JA. Two of the most broken planes in the game. They, again, same thing as in the previous ones. They outclimb like mad. They shouldn't climb the way they should. They turn in a dime, which they should. That's not a problem. But especially at high altitudes, this thing performs in a way they shouldn't. I mean, these planes really, they were very good, but at high altitudes the performance dropped like a stone. In War Thunder is not that way. In War Thunder, these planes keep their performance very good up high. Of course, they have limits. They don't dive especially well. They don't zoom especially well. They have some maneuverability related problems. They are not perfect, but they are overperforming. And really, I don't know exactly what's wrong with these planes, but they have some energy retention issues. They really seem like they don't burn any energy at all at high speeds. So, really broken planes. But again, we come back to the problem with the Japanese tree. After the N1K1, N1K2JA, there's only the Kia 200. We will comment that in a second. But after that, there's nothing. So it's highly likely, and actually happens, that you end up with this plane going up against Korean war jets. So I mean, the plane is broken. It's OP as hell. But let's face it, I'd rather have a proper performance plane that doesn't have to deal with the enemy stuff, which is much better by default. So it's hard to be angry about these planes being OP. They are broken. They actually overperform by a wide margin. But one can't really say with a straight face that they should be fixed before something is added here that makes Japan competitive at high levels. So, well, that's the thing. And that's the problem with the Japanese tree. It lacks planes. It lacks planes, especially at high tiers. Second tree is the Ki 61 tree, which starts with the Ki 10. Well, actually, this is the Army tree. This is the Navy line, and this is the Army line. It starts with the Ki 10, sorry, which are four different reserve planes, all of them exceptionally good. These are I rate it as probably the second best reserve aircraft at the moment, and only because the Soviet ones have twice the firepower, but these really are very good reserve aircraft. Next in line is the Ki-43-2 at level 2. This is brutal. It has the same problem as the Zeros. It climbs too good, but it has the same problems. It doesn't dive or zoom very well. And this one is actually susceptible to damage. It's more susceptible to damage than the Zeros. It turns in a damage. This thing is so funny to fly. I mean, this is one of the most entertaining planes to fly. And besides the fact that it's climbing too good, other than that, the plane is really accurate. The problem is that this particular model is a 1943 plane, and it's a level 2. I would put here a Ki 43-1, which is the proper 1941 plane. But other than that, this plane is fantastic. I think it's under tier. In fact, this plane is really, really, really fun to fly. It can't boom and zoom, and actually, against a boom and zoomer, is mostly dead if the boom and zoomer knows his stuff. But if he doesn't, oh boy, this thing is fun. Next in line is the Ki 61-1A. I'm going to comment on all the Ki A61s as a whole because they are very similar to each other. They turn very well, not zero levels in turn rate, but still very good. They are very good in dive and zooming. At least they are able to dive at speeds the Zero or the Oscar, the Ki A43 would disintegrate at, and they keep their maneuverability at high speeds really well. This was actually one of the strengths of this plane, the Tony, the Ki 61. Historically, the Americans were used to just dive away from a Japanese plane because it wouldn't be able to follow. Well, the Ki 61 changed that because the Ki 61 could actually dive very well and keep its maneuverability to high speeds. This is actually the closest thing the Japanese have to boom and zoomers in history. They are not good boom and zoomers because they are too light for that. But still, they retain energy very well. They dive and zoom really well, and again, they are overclimbing a lot. But other than that, the planes are really fine. The problem with the low level ones is the firepower. It only has light machine guns and heavy machine guns, depending on the version. This one has 2 light machine guns and 2 heavy machine guns. This has 4 heavy machine guns. Firepower wise, they are a little bit lacking, but other than that, fantastic planes. Fantastic planes. The Ki 61-1C is like the Ki 61-1B, but somewhat heavier, so it turns a little bit worse. But compensates for that with 2 20mm MG151 cannons, which pack a wallop. I mean, these things hit really hard. This has really strong firepower, and I don't think it's over tiered. It's level 11. Actually, I think these two are under tiered. But again, the problem is the Japanese tree is lacking planes. So until they introduce new ones that are competent at mid levels, this will have to do. And finally, the Ki 200, which is the Japanese version of the Comet, the German one, but much worse. It doesn't have air brakes. It has 2 less minutes of fuel, and well, the only thing it has in favor is that the Type 5 cannons are better than the German MK108, which are the Comet's weapons. But this thing is hopeless. I mean, 4 minutes of fuel in historical battles, really? No. It can be effective, of course, but is not a proper competitor for the levels it's put at. I mean, this thing will probably face Korean War jets, and no. I mean, simply no. Beyond that, nothing. And that's the problem with the fighters in the Japanese tree. They are overperforming like mad, most of them. But one hardly can say that. I mean, they are broken in climb rate, all of them. But really, they pay for that with no heavy planes later in the war. And even over climbing, I mean, these planes are not perfect by any means. Boom and zoomers make a Japanese plane life miserable. Really, if you boom and zoom these things, you are going to win. Then 1Ks are somewhat different in that regard because they keep energy way too good, and as a result, they are very good at catching boom and summers. But other than that, I mean, a P40 is going to kill an A6M2 no matter what. I mean, well flown, the Zero can't catch up with it. Sure, it can outclimb it, but will never catch up with it, simply because it can dive and it can't zoom. So yeah, that's the thing with the Japanese fighters. Now, heavy fighters, I'm not going to even comment. Flight model wise, they are all as broken as the broken fighter. They really are. They don't have the final flight models, and the one they have right now is widely permissive. They shouldn't fly the way they should. Anyway, they are 3 key 45. The first one has 2 heavy machine guns and one 20mm cannon. The second one has one 20mm cannon, one 37mm cannon, and the other one has a 37mm cannon and nothing else. And the last one has again a 37mm cannon and a 20mm cannon. Now, the problem is the weapons. The flight model is broken, totally. But the weapons, I mean, if you hit with this 37mm, you are going to disgrace things. But it only has 16 shots, and the 20mm only 50. If you are at ace at shooting, maybe you can extract a lot from these planes. But other than that, well, for me the best one is the first one, simply because it really has some offensive power and it has offensive powers and it can keep it up for a while. I mean, 100 rounds for a 20mm cannon is quite a lot, and heavy machine guns with 700 rounds also last a lot. The rest, you are going to find yourself with no ammo in no time. But of course, that's if you fly these things, but these things are broken, so yeah. KI-102 sports the biggest cannon in the game, which is the 57mm. Again, only 16 rounds, but this at least has 2 20mm cannons with a lot of ammo. This actually is worthwhile, but again, it's broken. It actually is. I mean, these things climb too good, turn too good, maneuver too good, is insane. Even so, for twin engine planes, this should be pretty maneuverable, but not to the point they are right now. So yeah, the Japanese broken fighters, basically. Next in line is a bomber line. F1 M2, the pit, is, well, a reserve aircraft with very light bomb blows. It's just for fun, to be honest. D3 A1, this is the BAL, the carrier born. This is a legendary aircraft. It's pretty effective as a dive bomber. If only has problems is because it has a very limited bomb load. It only can load up to 250 kilobombs, which is not really a lot. But without the bomb, it's really 9 ball. I mean, this thing really turns in a dime. The problem is, it's a bomber, doesn't accelerate good, doesn't climb good, but turning is surprisingly good in a turn. So yeah, this is a very capable fighter dive bomber in capable hands, and is able to double as an emergency fighter in moments of emergency, but is not good at that because it lacks climb and acceleration. H6K1 K4, the Mavis. This is a brute. Wow. This is one of the most troll planes in the game. At the level it's at, level 3, most things are shooting at it with just machine guns. And this thing is going to stand a heck of a lot of damage. And meanwhile, it's going to shoot back with a 20mm turret, which is going to disgrace enemies very fast. This is such a troll. This is one of the funniest planes to fly in War Thunder. Of course, it's not invulnerable and eventually will go down. But it's a very fun plane to fly. Really, it is. Next one in line is the V5N2, which is a torpedo bomber. As a bomber, it's very good for several reasons. First of all, because it can mount up to 1,000 kilogram bombs in one bomb, which is a lot. It also can mount torpedoes, which is also very nice. And can also mount up to 250 kilobombs. So it's pretty how to say it. is adaptable to a lot of different styles. You can load just a massive 1000 kilo bomb. You can load a couple mid-sized bombs, or you can load a torpedo. The only problem with this plane is that it doesn't have any fixed weaponry. It only has a Gunner 7.7mm machine gun, but it doesn't have any forward-facing weapons. So, if caught up by fighters, you don't have any option to fight back, other than letting the gunner try to shoot it down, which is usually not very effective. So, offensively is a really nice plane, but the problem is that if forced into a fight, this thing is defenseless. It tanks very well, to be honest, and can keep its own and stay to survive until fighters come and help, but they can't fight back, and that's a huge, huge, huge disadvantage. Next in line is the G4M1. A much faster thing than the Mavis. It's a very fast plane, a bomber at least. Can carry a decent amount of bombs and is very maneuverable. And it has a 20mm tail gun, which is pretty ridiculous. This is a very effective bomber. The only problem is that it has very limited bomb loads. I mean, for a plane this size, just one 1000 kilo bomb or up to 4 250 kilo bombs is not really a lot. If it has an advantage is that it can mount torpedoes. It can actually mount torpedoes and go against ships, and for that it's good, but a little bit lacking on offensive power, but this defensively is a pretty good bomber. Really it is. And the same is true with the FKA 49. Which are from level 5 to level 9. The late ones are faster than the previous ones, but other than that, they are very similar, except for the fact that the first one doesn't have a 20mm gun, which the other ones do. And that 20mm is a troll, really. They are very similar to the G4M2. They are faster, but also have limited bomb loads, which kind of detracts from them. But even so, I mean, for 250 kilobombs is not bad, but it's not good. The advantage of these bombers again is that they are very maneuverable. I think too good, to be honest, but it's hard to say. I mean, these planes were really maneuverable in real life. They are really maneuverable. The problem is that they have a damage model that stands huge amounts of hits when these planes were renowned in real life for being pretty easy to shoot down. But other than that, I don't think performance-wise they are broken in any way. And they have a 20mm gun. Really, that thing is huge. The 20mm, if you hit with it, you are going to make enemies pay really fast. So pretty effective bombers. Next in line is the level 13 G5M1, which is a 4-engine heavy bomber. It's very well defended, but again, offensively, it doesn't load a lot of bombs. For 1000 kilo bombs, may seem a lot. 12 250 kilo bombs, it's a lot, but we are talking about a level 13 4-engine massive bomber. I mean, this thing was bigger than a B-17. And for that, it doesn't have that much of a bomb load. Still, this is a case, particularly the G8N1 at level 15, this is another. These two planes have two problems. First of all, they are exceptionally well protected. Especially this one. This one is a monster. Look at those turrets. All of those are 20mm guns. This, and this. And what's the problem? The problem is that these things actually turn way too good. And it's not rare, actually it's pretty standard to see. I mean, bombers should be running away from fighters like mad, like, oh no, a fighter, go away, go. Well, these things actually go against fighters, and they are looking for trouble versus fighters, because the damage model is so broken and they turn so well, and the autogunners are so accurate, and even if they weren't, those 20mm cannons are so troll that really people fly this thing as an offensive fighters. Just they fly into swarms of enemies and let the gunners shoot off without aim, and they get kills. So these are ridiculous right now. Of course, the problem is beyond that there's nothing. So if we have to sum the regular tree of the Japanese, is that very fun to fly at low levels, very fun to fly at medium levels, starts to be a little bit problematic at mid to high levels, and at very high levels they are worthless because they don't have anything to compete with yet. They have a rocket plane, but it's mostly shit. So yeah, that's the thing. Also, these things, they turn too good. I mean, they are very permissive with people flying them without a brain and still getting good results. So these planes, I really think they shouldn't be picked as the first choice, because you are going to get used to turn a lot and get results because of that. And then if after you develop the Japanese you go to the American tree, you're going to suffer a lot because you will try to turn and you can't. Still, they are very fun planes to fly. I use this tree mostly for a change of pace. When I simply need a little bit of mindless fun, I get myself in a zero and get some games. And usually I do very good in them because they are broken. But yeah, that's it for the regular tree. Now, as for the premium planes, Agiris A5M4, which is pretty much the same as a standard one. BF109E3 at level 6, which is pretty much the same as the German one. American F4U1A, which is pretty much the same as American level 7 one. Very, very good fighter. Ki 96, which is pretty much another broken fighter in the Japanese tree. This one shares the amazing. This one actually has very good firepower and for a good while. 200 rounds of 20mm ammunition and 35 for the 37mm is very good. But again, broken fighter syndrome. These things turn too good. Focus 190A5, level 11. What I'm going to say, this thing rocks. And A6M5 Go, which is pretty much the same as the A6M5 at the regular tree. So it's pretty much the same. So yep, that's it for the Japanese tree, and that's it for the planes that there are in place. It's a tree with a lot of problems because it lacks a lot of planes that should be here. The Ki 48, 84, the Ki 44, the Ki 100, the J2M. There are so many fighters that could add a lot in the mid tiers, and instead you only have zeros, Ki 61s, and N1Ks, and they are all broken in one way or another. So it's a problem. It's a problem. So it's not well fleshed out, and the flight models need a serious rework. But it's a very fun nation to fly. Very fun. And you will love. I mean, I'm sure you will love the planes because who wouldn't? At level 7 have a 23 meters per second climbing zero, which doesn't burn like a zero and still turns like a zero. Who wouldn't love that? But it's not historical. It's not well fleshed out. But well, I mean, let's face it, they don't have enough planes. So as a kind of stopgap compensation, is not something that, I mean, one can't slam the Japanese flying people for flying these things. They are broken, yes, but they don't have many much alternatives, do they? So, yep, that's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you later.
From the world outside, every longer will be alright.